I spent 2 years building the biggest project of my career. On the morning I was supposed to present it, I watched my best friend stand in front of the executives, using my work as if he'd created every line himself. That morning, I didn't just lose a promotion. I lost the man I once called my brother. 6 years later, he walked into my office asking for my help. If you'd asked anyone in the office about Jason and me, they would have said we were inseparable. We ate lunch together almost every day, stayed late solving problems together, and covered for each other whenever one of us had family emergencies. We'd spent 8 years building a friendship that felt stronger than blood. I trusted him with things I wouldn't tell anyone else. We celebrated birthdays together, watched football on weekends, and our families even knew each other. Jason liked to joke that if either of us ever became a manager, we'd drag the other one up with us. I believed every word. Looking back now, I wasn't working beside a brother. I was standing beside someone quietly measuring everything I had. 2 years before everything fell apart, our company announced a competition. Whoever developed a platform that could cut shipping delays for clients by at least 30% would lead the company's new innovation division. I poured everything into that project. While everyone else went home, I stayed, night after night, weekend after weekend. Jason was the only person who knew every detail of what I was building. I trusted him enough to show him my prototypes, my algorithms, even the presentation I'd spent weeks perfecting. He leaned over my desk, smiled, and said, "Adam, this is incredible. On Monday, they're going to make you director." I smiled back, never imagining those would be the biggest lie he ever told me. Monday finally arrived. I barely slept the night before, replaying my presentation over and over in my head. As I walked toward the conference room, several coworkers wished me luck. One even smiled and said, "Don't forget us when you become director." I laughed. I honestly believed the hardest part was already behind me. I had no idea my biggest challenge wasn't the presentation. It was the man waiting inside. Before I reached the door, I heard applause. Curious, I looked through the glass. My heart stopped. Jason was standing at the front of the room, using my presentation, my slides, my charts, even the project logo I'd designed myself. For a second, I honestly thought I was dreaming. Then it got worse. Jason repeated my opening line, word for word, every joke, every explanation, every demonstration. He wasn't inspired by my work. He had memorized it. I stood silently at the back of the room, unable to understand how someone I trusted like family could look me in the eyes and steal 2 years of my life without a hint of guilt. As the presentation ended, Sarah stood up with a smile. "Outstanding work, Jason." The room erupted into applause. Then she announced the words I'd been waiting 2 years to hear. "Effective immediately, you're our new director of innovation." Everyone stood to congratulate him. No one noticed the man in the back whose dream had just been stolen. When the room finally emptied, I walked up to Jason and quietly asked one question. Why? He didn't apologize. He didn't even pretend to feel bad. He looked me straight in the eyes and said, "Business isn't personal, Adam. You were too trusting, and that's why you'll never make it to the top." In that moment, I realized I hadn't lost my promotion that morning. I'd lost my best friend long before I ever walked into that conference room. I refused to believe it was over. There had to be a mistake. I rushed to IT, convinced they could recover the project history and prove I'd spent 2 years building it. But when they opened the company server, every major revision listed Jason as the lead developer. My name appeared only on minor support files. It was as if my work had slowly been erased from history. Sarah listened carefully as I explained everything. I showed old notebooks, early sketches, and handwritten ideas. She wanted to believe me. I could see it in her face. But companies don't make decisions based on feelings. They rely on documented evidence. And every official record now pointed to Jason. Someone hadn't just stolen my project. They'd rewritten its entire history. The office felt different overnight. People who used to ask for my advice suddenly kept their distance. Congratulations echoed across the room for Jason's promotion while I packed my belongings into a small cardboard box. No one called me a liar, but no one stood beside me either. Sometimes silence hurts more than accusations. As I reached the elevator, Jason stopped me. He stretched out his hand as though nothing had happened. "No hard feelings?" he asked with a smile. I looked at the hand of the man who'd shared meals with my family, then at the promotion badge clipped to his jacket. I didn't shake it. I simply said, "One day you'll discover the difference between taking credit and earning respect." I resigned that afternoon, not because I accepted what happened, but because I'd realized something important. If a place could be fooled into believing someone else's lies over years of honest work, then it was no longer a place where I belonged. I left with a cardboard box in my hands and a promise in my heart. The next company I built success with would know exactly who had earned it. 6 years changed everything. I never wasted my energy trying to expose Jason. Instead, I poured every lesson from that betrayal into building something better. What started as 3 friends working from a tiny rented office slowly became one of the fastest growing enterprise software companies in the country. This time, every project carried one name from the very beginning: mine. Our software wasn't successful because it looked impressive. It solved problems companies had struggled with for years. Clients trusted us because we delivered exactly what we promised. Every contract reminded me of something Jason never understood. You can steal an idea once, but you can't steal the ability to keep creating new ones. Meanwhile, Jason's promotion wasn't going the way he'd imagined. The project that earned him his title was never truly his. Once updates became necessary, the innovation stopped. Deadlines were missed. Clients began leaving. The praise he'd enjoyed for years slowly turned into uncomfortable questions from the board. During a tense board meeting, the directors reached a painful conclusion. Their competitors had surpassed them. One board member quietly placed a report on the table. There's only one company whose software can save us now. Jason glanced at the front page and froze when he read the company name. It belonged to the man he'd betrayed 6 years earlier. Pride told Jason to walk away. Reality wouldn't let him. Losing this deal meant losing the company he'd sacrificed everything to build. With no other choice, he scheduled a meeting, never expecting that the person waiting on the other side of that conference room would be the friend he betrayed 6 years ago. The conference room doors opened. I stepped inside carrying nothing more than a leather portfolio. Jason looked up, and every bit of confidence disappeared from his face. 6 years earlier, he'd watched me leave our old company carrying a cardboard box. Now he was sitting in my boardroom, waiting for my decision. "Good morning, Jason," I said calmly. "It's been a long time." Jason cleared his throat and began explaining why his company needed our software. I listened without interrupting. When he finished, I quietly closed the report and said, "Your company doesn't have a technology problem. It has a leadership problem. Software can't fix decisions built on dishonesty." The room fell silent. Even my own executives looked at me, sensing there was more to the story. I reached into my portfolio and placed an old photograph on the table. It was taken 6 years earlier, the night we finished the very first prototype together. We were both smiling, standing in front of the whiteboard covered with my original designs. "I kept this," I said quietly, "not because I miss what happened, but because it reminds me how painful it is when betrayal comes from someone you call family." Jason couldn't even look at the picture. I slid a contract across the table. "We'll license our software to your company," I said. Jason looked up, surprised. Then he read the final page. One condition: before the agreement could take effect, his company would issue a public statement acknowledging that the original innovation platform had been created by me, Adam Brooks, and that I had never received credit for my work. The room became so quiet you could hear the air conditioning. 3 weeks later, every major technology news outlet carried the same headline. Jason publicly admitted that I had created the project that launched his career. I didn't ask for his title. I didn't ask for his money. I only wanted the truth returned to the person who had earned it. As I walked away from the press conference, I realized something. Success isn't proving your enemies wrong. It's proving that betrayal couldn't stop you from becoming the person you were always meant to be. Some people steal your work, others steal your trust, but the truth has a way of finding its voice. Another story has been recorded inside the Vindictive Archive. Tell us in the comments, if you were Adam, would you have accepted Jason's deal or walked away forever? Until the next entry, the archive remains open.